Hearthstone is about to change in a massive way. We aren't just talking about the standard rotation where last year's set rotate. We'll also be getting a new core set, and Blizzard is changing it aggressively with a lot of surprises. A lot of staples will be going out of the core set, which will change how every deck is being built. So let's go over every change and see what it means for the future of every class. So you can see here on the left side we'll be having cards that will be leaving the core set, and then entering the core set will be on the right side. So let's start with Death Knight, and here we have a few staples for Death Knight leaving. I mean, we have for Blood Death Knight, we have Corpse Explosion leaving, so that is a big board clear. We're not getting Soul Stealer back for it, so yeah, they're really lacking board clears now, I think. And also Vampiric Blood is rotating, though we haven't seen a lot of triple blood lately, but yeah, there's a lot of health going away as well, because Airlock Breach is also rotating, so that will be gone. And the other cards, we have Horde of Winter, that's a pretty big one for Frost, that allows you to cheat a bunch of mana early on. Same as Stitch Giant, a pretty big card for any deck with one Unholy if they wanted to spend a lot of corpses. Well, it's really good tempo, and yeah, that's a big loss. The other two, Soulbreaker, Deathbringer, Salving, I don't think the deck really cares about. And what's Death Knight getting back? Well, we've got the Bone Guard Commander, not a big deal. Same with Corrupted Ashbringer. We also have a brand new card in Consumption, which is 4 mana and 2 blood runes. It says deal 3 damage to 2 random enemy minions. Draw a card for each that dies. So it's basically multi-shot, but then you get draw if they die. But a multi-shot isn't exactly the greatest card. So we'll see if this will see any play in these blood decks. What Blood is getting back though is Alexandra's Mograine, and yeah, this was a pretty big card a few years ago, especially if you could like Zolite and they get multiple of them. And yeah, that's a really nice late game. Also, a lot of armor cards are gonna be rotating, so that makes kind of the damage more impactful. So that might just be a big deal. But again, the problem is then with those other cards that are rotating with Corpse Explosion and Vampiric, that you might just not be able to survive to play that Mograine. But I think the card will still see play. Another new card we get is Death's Advance, a 2 Frost spell. It says freeze a character, discover a spell. So we've seen a lot of freeze character cards, right? Especially with Glacial Shard is pretty popular. This, you get a discover a spell with it. And yeah, how good is this? I mean, it's nice getting discover a spell, but for 2 mana, just getting that and a freeze, I'm not sure that's quite worth it. Because we have a card right now that says pay 3 health to discover a spell, and that doesn't see much play. So I'm not sure if the freeze and 2 mana really helps with that. And it's also not a frost spell, even though it has those frost runes, and a corpse farm returns. I think it saw a little bit of play, especially with that Stitch Giant, which you could then cheat out, I think. And yeah, that will be gone, but yeah, maybe that will see some play again. So that is it for Death Knight. I think Blood is losing the most because that Corpse Explosion is really important in the control decks. And yeah, Vampiric, Horde of Winter, Stitch Giant, all decent losses. And I don't quite think the cards returner quite make up for it. So I think Death Knight is getting a bit worse. Now let's then go to the Demon Hunter. And what's leaving here is the Immolation Aura. Seen a little bit of play, but it feels like a good card, but surprisingly just not seeing that much play. I mean, Gennard Glavesmith, yeah, doesn't really see much play. Wayward Sage, I think it's all a little bit of play, but not a big deal. The biggest card that Demon Hunter is losing is the Tusk Piercer, because yeah, 1 mana tutor card has been huge. Tutoring cards like Blob has been pretty massive, so that might just be the nerf that the Blob and Ravenous Palantir needs. And then Zaidi Incredible, yeah, never really was that incredible, so not really a big loss. And what's getting back is a new card, Tychondrius. It's a 9 mana, 9/8 demon. Your hero is immune. Battlecry, your next demon this turn costs 0. So this is pretty much Morganis, but 1 more health, and you get a demon for free with it. But it is a Battlecry, so it's not really something you want to just cheat out from your deck or something. And Morganis was good because you could cheat it out and buff like the Void Walkers of the Void Lord. But this one, I'm not entirely convinced. Kind of depends on what other demons you can use with it. Then we have the Mythical Terror. I mean, this never saw play, so probably won't see play again. Same with the Netherwalker. 2 mana, 2 to discover demon. I mean, seems decent, right? 2 mana discover card, but I don't think it sees play. Demons just aren't that great. The Eridor Deceptor returns, and this card has just been too expensive for what it needs to do. And then the Wrath Spike Brute. I think this got a buff. I think it used to be a 2/6, now a 3/6. But will it see play? Probably not. Just probably a little bit too expensive for what it does. So for Demon Hunter, losing Tusk Piercer is a pretty big deal. The other cards I don't think are too important that are coming in or out of the core set. But Tusk Piercer, that draw card, the tutor card, that is quite a big loss for their class. Then with Druid, it's losing one of its staples in the swipe. course, Alonius is rotating, so it was already getting worse, but now with Swipe gone, yeah, spell damage archetypes are going to be even harder to pull off, because even if there's some spell damage cards, you no longer have that board clear of Swipe that you often needed to stay alive. Same with Seabreeze, Shadow's Leaving, if the deck still play that. The other cards, not as big of a deal. I mean, Thick-Eyed Coda, Park Panther, really didn't see much play. The Witchwood Apple feels a bit weird. It's rotating because we just got in a mini set a card that needs 3-ins to work, and then we're rotating one of the few cards that summons 3-ins. So I wonder if we're getting new 3-ins cards in the next set, because otherwise there's like no point in that card. And then Greybow, yeah, saw a little bit of play, but I'd say not too big of a deal. And what it's getting back is Crystal Merchant. Yeah, they saw play with Quest Druid back in the day, and probably not really worth it now. It's basically 3 mana, 1/4 draw a card, and don't think that's quite good enough. Then we have the Underking, a card that has seen play as well, but again, only in specific combinations. But it was with Anoop Rakan, which lets you cheat out a lot of mana based on the armor you had, and this helped a lot with it. And by itself, I'm not quite sure. It's a lot of armor though. That's 12 armor on a card and a rusher, so it might just see play. Savage Striker, I mean, it's only good if you get an attack, and yeah, it could be decent, but they need some attack damage Druid, and don't think we get that right now. Again, unless there's some new cards in the new set. Then we have Boomkin. Yeah, I don't think that's really gonna be worth it. Just feels a little bit too expensive for what it does, so probably not. And then we have, again, another new card here is Ulfar. A 6 mana 4/3 battlecry. Gives your other minions Death Rattle. Summon a minion with this minion's cost. So I think that means if you give a 1 mana card this Death Rattle, you get another 1 mana card. Now that is a pretty strong effect if you get the nice board, really sticky board. Problem is, yeah, this card is 6 mana and it's a 4/3 that only buffs other minions. So you need like a nice board. And if you just have 1-drops, all you get is 1-drops back. But yeah, if you have a bunch of bigger minions, then yeah, this feels like isn't really needed, because you already have those big minions on board, and that usually wins. So maybe it sees play. It's a pretty strong effect. Just feels like a little bit too expensive and not quite what Druid wants to do right now. So overall for Druid, yeah, it's losing that swipe. The other cards, not too important. And what it's getting back, I don't think too big of a deal either. I mean, some of those cards could see play in certain decks, but not really cards I think that will see widespread play. Then let's go to the Hunter class and see what that is losing. First of all, yeah, Deadly Shot. That is a classic Hunter card, but yeah, nowadays doesn't really see play. Master's Call. I haven't seen too much play, even though it's a pretty strong card. I think just the lack of good beast decks is the cause for that. Then we have the Terraskill Stalker, and yeah, this is a pretty big card, especially after it got buffed. I remember playing it for 3 mana in like 2018, where it was really strong. Now it was 2 mana, and just, yeah, a really strong card in some Death Rattle decks with like an egg, or with the Biopod, if you have multiple Biopods stacked. Now, of course, those rotate, but yeah, this means that they can maybe print some better Death Rattles, and they don't just have to balance around that. Ice Trap is gone. That's great, not really my favorite secret when you have to play around the random counter spell every time. And then we have Barak Kodabane and Varanus, and neither of them really saw too much play, even though they saw play in the past, but yeah, not recently, even though they were in the core set. And what it's getting back is Call of the Wild, back at 8 mana. It got nerfed to 9 mana, now it's 8 mana. But yeah, we kind of already had a Call of the Wild in Standard, the 2 mana spell, forgot its name, that gives you all 3 animal companions in hand. So that's basically this card, but then split, which is obviously way better. So unless you could cheat it out, I'm not sure if it's still going to see play. But maybe with the rotation, the power level might just go down enough that it's good enough again. Then Pressure Plate is returning in place of that Ice Trap, and yeah, just an annoying secret. But it really only sees play if it does actually secret decks, and yeah, you won't be playing this by itself. Same with Ice Trap, you didn't even play that by itself. Then Hunter's Hatchet, I think this has seen a bit of play in the past. Could be okay weapon, but nothing amazing. Then we got Halazi the Lynx, which got buffed. Now it's a 4 mana 4/2 with Rush instead of a 5 mana 3/2, I believe. And yeah, this saw play with the Quest Hunter in Uldum. And by itself, though, I don't think it's seen too much play, but with this buff, though, getting the Rusher and then getting the Lynxes can be a nice card to just get some 1/1s, fill your curve, keep having things to play that just can kind of nicely trade into other things. So yeah, that's a pretty nice buff to Halazi. Then we have the Augmented Porcupine. Yeah, I don't think that's seen a lot of play unless there's some big hand buff cards. And then Dragonbane returns. This has been powerful in the past. Again, that's been many years ago, so we'll see if that card actually is good enough to turn, because yeah, that was pretty scary back in the day, those 5 damage with the hero power of Hunter back when there's a lot less healing. Though again, with the healing and the armor rotating a lot of it, that it might just be a great card again. So for Hunter, what it's losing, yeah, that Terror Skill Stalker, probably the biggest card, and then maybe Ice Trap, but it was more of a random card than that really was a card you would put in the deck. So not too much of a loss for Hunter, especially for most hunters. And then it's gaining back some cards that might be useful. So I think for Hunter, not too big of a change here in the core set. Then let's go to Mage, and it's losing a few staples. First of all, we got the Arcane Artificer. Yeah, pretty important in a lot of slower Mage decks, especially because it's already losing all the other armor cards. The 6 armor from Protoss is rotating, Sleet Skater is rotating. So pretty much every armor card from Mage is gone. So we'll see how it can now survive in the longer matches, because without armor gain, it's going to be probably pretty hard to survive. Then we have Glyph rotating as well. So that's pretty rough for the Quest Mage, because yeah, it's already losing a lot of other Discover cards, and now Glyph as well. So that hurts it a lot. Violence Portal, even the buffed version, yeah, didn't really see any play. Flame Geyser, I think saw a little bit of play. And then Kalagos, yeah, I think it saw playing some big spell mages. But outside of that, not really worth putting in your deck nowadays. And what it's getting back, First Flame, I think this is a really good card. I like the design of it, just a nice way to clear the board early. It's not quite Seabreeze Chalice, I guess, even though, yeah, this one you can target. But kind of a nice replacement to have some early game removal. Then we have Khadgar, and yeah, that really depends on what kind of cards there are, what you can summon. Because we used to have this with like Conjurer's Calling, that was really powerful to get multiple giants on board on like turn 5. So now one of the other cards that summons minions is Deep Freeze, though I don't think this is going to be worth it. I mean, compared to Tsunami, that's 3 water elementals that also attack already. This card isn't quite as good as Tsunami, and yeah, for 7 mana getting 2 water elementals, we'll see if that sees play. It saw play when it was in Standard for a little bit, but now I'm not entirely convinced. And also coming back is the Rune Orb. If you played Mage, you've probably already seen this card in the Alter Time, and yeah, just a decent discovery card. I guess this is just a replacement for the Glyph, though I think the discount is sometimes more powerful than the deal damage, especially if there's nothing on board to hit with it. But hey, I guess that's the replacement for that. And last card Mage gets back is the Astromancer, and this one, it's a lot easier than when this was in Standard to get a full hand, but just summoning random minions for 7 mana just doesn't really seem worth it. I mean, we got Anomalize, and that is, yeah, not a very good card, even though that's definitely worse. Probably a similar vein, just not really worth running anymore, and I don't really know what Mage deck it goes into either, although, yeah, it's kind of work with that Khadgar, so that's a thing, I guess. So for Mage overall, what it's getting First Flame, Rune Orb, solid cards for Mage, but is also losing Artifice and Glyph mostly, which yeah, I think are pretty big losses for the slower Mage decks. And let's move on to Paladin, and what is Paladin losing? Well, the Red Skill Dragon Tamer, it's losing. Doesn't seem too much play, maybe a little bit in a quest, but that's it. Then Crusader Aura is going away. I think a lot of people are going to be happy about this card rotating, because yeah, no longer you get punished for leaving up a few minions that you then can't clear because they just got buffed. Then we have the Underlight Angling Rod, and yeah, not a big deal. Bronze Explorer, not a big deal. Anachronos, though, that's a pretty good card for a lot of these slower decks. Just buy yourself some time with that card, so that's a pretty big loss for those decks. And what is it getting back? The Battle Vicar. A card I think seen a bit of play in the past, but again, 2 mana just discover a spell. Has not been that amazing lately, though. Yeah, depends on the holy spell pool, though. It might just be really good that it's worth it, or you don't have any other options as a slower deck, which is probably what you'll be playing it in. Then we got the High Lord 4 Dragon. Don't think it saw play very much back in the day, and probably not seeing play now, even though, yeah, the effect is kind of nice, though. That's a lot of stats, but for 6 mana, you do need other minions on the board for this really to be worth it. Then the Veteran War Medic. Again, one of those cards that's just too expensive to play with, then also needing holy spells to play before it's really worth it. Then returning is the Coghammer, and yeah, this one was a pretty big card back in the day. Like, this could really win the game early on. However, yeah, that's been a long time ago, like a very long time ago. So I'm not entirely convinced that this 3 mana 2/3 weapon is really cut out for the game in 2026. But we shall see. It was really good back in the day. And last card we get for Paladin is the Ivory Knight. And this one, yeah, it heals you a bit. I think it used to be 5 or even 6 mana. And it was a nice card to heal back when there wasn't a lot of healing in Standard. But now again, that is just the power creep. I don't know if this is still worth running, because yeah, 4 mana discover spell. and then maybe heal a little bit, probably not worth it. So overall for Paladin, yeah, it's losing that Crusader Aura. That's a pretty big loss for aggro decks or the Aura Paladin. And a Chronos, pretty big deal for any slower Paladin deck. And then yeah, the other cards maybe for like a Murloc or Dragon stuff, but not too big of a deal. And what it's getting back, I feel like nothing big. It's definitely losing more than it's gaining for Paladins, so it will have to find some other ways to make their decks better. Then let's go to a Priest, and yeah, Priest needs some help because they're really lacking in well, anything if you're playing a control deck. So what is it losing? Well, first of all, we've got the Ship Chirurgeon is going away, so that hurts any Dragon aggro deck that was really strong in those. The Spirit Guide, pretty good when it was in Standard with like Quest Priest, but it hasn't seen play in Standard, so not a big loss. Thrive in the Shadows though, definitely seen play in Standard, just a solid card, just 2 mana Discover spell from your deck. It's just solid, nothing amazing, nothing terrible, just a nice card to have, but also not really that big of a loss. The Light Bomb, one of the few clears Priest had, but it's really tough to make this work because it really needs the board to line up. So yeah, often it wasn't even being played anymore, so not too big of a loss. And we got Madame Lazul. Yeah, Rogue is getting this card for 1 mana with a discount on it. And yeah, this was just also too expensive nowadays most of the time. So those are the losses for Priest. And what are we gaining? We're gaining the Crystal Smith Cultist. If you're holding a Shadow Spell, it's a 1 mana 2/3. So maybe there's going to be some aggro Priest with this that's running Shadow Spells that you can consistently play this on 1/4 as a 2/3. But at least it needs to be really consistent because otherwise definitely not worth it. Then the Priest of Anshe, and yeah, this one, I don't think it's all play, and yeah, a situational big minion. Those minions are generally not really worth running, and I think the same here. Initiation, yeah, this card sucked back in the day, and it's probably still gonna be bad. And then we have Devouring Plague, though. This saw a lot of play in the like control decks to stay alive early on. Just I think just a nice card to have, just for healing, kill some tokens or 1 minion, though. It might be just slightly expensive to play, especially because we now have a targeted 3 damage, 3 heal card that gets back to hand, so that might just be better than this one. And then the last one is Kalia Manathiel, which is a new card, a 6 mana 4/5 undead with Battlecry, resurrect your highest cost minion that died this game. Yeah, I mean, it really depends on what kind of decks we'll be getting. If there's going to be some Res Priest or some huge minion that's really important, maybe. But I feel like in most decks, you probably won't be playing that. So Priest, yeah, it's not gaining really a whole lot with the new core set, while it's also not losing too much. Like, there's some nice cards, the Thrive, the Ship Chirurgeon, but nothing too big is really going away. And I really think it needed a little bit of better cards to go back to the core set, because, yeah, the Control Priest is just unplayable, just doesn't have early game any removal, and yeah, Devouring Plague is not really gonna solve that. It has trouble staying alive, clearing, drawing, like it does. Everything is a problem pretty much for Control Priest, and none of these cards are really going to be helping a ton with that, so I was really hoping for a bit more. Now let's go to Rogue, and here's the big one. Yes, you see it. That's right. Shadowstep is actually rotating. They actually did it. The unthinkable happened. Shadowstep is going out of Standard, and yeah, that is really going to change how Rogue plays, because pretty much every Rogue deck has been relying on that Shadowstep in one way or another. Though I think, yeah, Prep is staying. That's probably the better card than Shadowstep. But yeah, Shadowstep rotating, that is the biggest change of this core set, and we'll see how Rogue is going to adapt to losing it. Now, with other cards is losing, Undercity Huckster, didn't really see play. Raiding Party, though, pretty good card if you're playing any pirate deck or really want to tutor the weapon, so that's a good card gone. Hedgescan Burglar, yeah, didn't really see any play. Eviscerate, some play some aggro decks or face decks or weapon decks, so those decks will be losing Eviscerate. And we got Tess Greymane rotating. Wasn't really very competitive, most of the time more of a fun card to play, so yeah, that will be gone as well. And it's probably gone because we're getting some new random cards. First of all, yeah, Shadow of the Mice is coming back. This is a really strong card. It can be another Prep, could have been another Shadowstep if that didn't rotate, so it's probably related. And we also have Shiv coming back. Yeah, 2 mana deal 1 draw card. Probably not really worth too much unless you really need a cycle card and there's nothing else to play, but I think they have better cards than the Shiv. Jackpot is coming back, but yeah, Jackpot needed that 4 mana card that lets you play any next spell for free, and without that, probably not worth it to spend 2 mana to maybe get something usable, because when this was in Standard, you needed that mana cheat to really make this card work. Then we got the Sagat Zapper. Yeah, didn't really see much play. Doubt we'll see play. Spy Mistress, though, good aggro card, so if there's going to be an aggro rogue deck, I can definitely see this card being played. And then a Crazed Chemist. Yeah, this seems pretty awful. kind of a waste of a spot for a core set card. So for Rogue, yeah, losing that Shadowstep, massive. Raiding Party Eviscerate for some decks, they're losing. And then they're getting back Shadow of the Mice, though. That can be a pretty fun card. And the Spy Mistress. So overall, I'd say a loss for a Rogue. And definitely the change that will be talked about the most. Then let's go to Shaman and see what they're losing. Well, we got Menacing Nimbus. Saw play in Elemental Shaman, I guess, but that hasn't really been too good. Flame Tongue Totem, yeah, that's a classic card, but hasn't really been seeing much play either. Same with Feral Spirit. More Spawn, I mean, it feels like a good card, again, but it also hasn't really seen much play. Ginger Water Speaker, another card, seen play in the past, hasn't seen play when it was in standards. And then the only card from these cards that really has seen a lot of play has been the Alakir. But yeah, if you watch my video where I talked about what every deck is losing, then you'll see the deck Alakir was in with all the buffs. Yeah, it's pretty much losing everything. So yeah, the deck was gone already. So Alakir is not that big of a loss. Now what it's getting back is the Hammer of Twilight. I remember playing this in a Shaman deck. It was pretty solid, but yeah, nowadays 5 mana, get a 4/2 weapon, and you get a 4/2 elemental. Yeah, just not good enough. Like that is not gonna see a play, I think. Then Healing Rain, though, that is a nice big heal. Can heal your phase or your minions for only 3 mana. So that's a lot of healing that Shaman gets. So yeah, that definitely saw play. So if a slower Shaman deck needs healing, they'll be playing this card. Clay Shade seemed pretty awful. Totem Golem, now that is a classic, but a 2 mana 3/4 of Overload 1. I don't think anybody's going to be impressed if they see that card come down anymore. Then the new card for Shaman they're getting is Rhaegar Earth Fury, a 5 mana 3/5. After this, or an adjacent minion attacks, get a Lightning Bolt. So it's a bit like the totem, right? Like a Flame Tongue Totem where you want adjacent minions to attack and you get the benefit. But yeah, it's a weird one where you need like an aggro deck and then adjacent minions attack, then you get those 2 lightning bolts. But then you have those lightning bolts, you still have to cast them. And then this one is pretty unlikely to attack as a 5 health 5-drop. So that's probably not happening, so you really need other minions. Or you can use it with like a bunch of rushers if that's possible, and then you get a bunch of lightning bolts maybe. And then you can set up some OTK with some spell damage. So maybe there's something there though, but I don't expect too much from it. But yeah, maybe with some rushers, some combo stuff, it's there. And then we got the Witch's Apprentice. This used to be 1 mana, so that's a 0 mana 0/1 beast. And most times a 0 mana card does see play because it's really powerful to be 0 mana. And then you get like a tiny taunt and a random spell. But is that worth it? A 0 mana gain a random spell? I mean, probably not. Yeah, the taunt is a nice small benefit, I guess. But for 0 mana, why not just play a card that you want to play instead of just get a random card? So unless there's some combo with this that you really want a 0 mana card, or for maybe Elise, I don't think you'll be playing this a whole lot. Now let's go to Warlock. What is changing for Warlock? Well, we got the Enhanced Dreadlord. Not really seeing a whole lot of play. Dark Alley Pact, I think saw a little bit of play, but not too much lately. Demonic Studies, I think it saw a tiny bit of play, but it's more like filler than really was that important. Despicable Dreadlord, even with the buff from 5 to 6 health, has not really seen play. And then the one card that has seen a lot of play is the Solarium. Now, Quest Warlock played it, Egg Warlock played it, though I think Quest Warlock is pretty dead, and Egg Warlock might be too. And then, yeah, losing this one and a lot of the other draw cards might make Egg Warlock a dead deck as well. But this is a really powerful card that's rotating, so a pretty big loss for Warlock. So what are they getting back? First of all, it is Twisting Nether. And yeah, it destroys all minions and locations, not like it used to be with just minions. So sometimes you wish you had a card like this now against like a location druid. But yeah, 8 mana clear the board. That will only be played in really the slowest decks. And then the destroy locations is kind of an upside. We know Elise is already getting nerfed. And then some other stuff like copy location is rotating. So I feel like the destroying location is kind of going down in value. And then there's always Demolition Renovator if you really, really want to destroy location. So it's more of a bonus. And yeah, maybe you'll play this twisting and slower decks just because you need a board clear. And then maybe you get to clear the location as a bonus. Also returning is the Void Lord. And yeah, this was a great card in like 2017, 2018, because you got Skull of the Manari to cheat this one out. But without a way to cheat this out, probably not worth playing. Gnome Feratu has seen a little bit of play, and yeah, it could again see a little bit of play, but it's only really worth it if there's like going to be specific cards on top. There's like a deck that puts a card on top, or like in the Priest where it sets the top card to 1 mana, those kind of cards, even though that's rotating. Maybe then you'll play it, but other than that, probably not worth playing for 2 mana. It's usually just a 2 mana 2/3. Rift Cleaver, yeah, this card seems pretty horrible. You just take way too much damage. And then the Archwitch Willow. This is maybe the one one way you get the Void Lord out, so you can summon it from hand or deck. But yeah, that needs a big demon deck archetype, and I'm not convinced that's going to be there. But maybe if that archetype is there, you'll probably see this card played in that. So yeah, Warlock losing Solarium, that is a pretty big deal. The rest, not so much. And what it's getting back, yeah, maybe, you know, Twisting Nether, maybe that Willow with the Void Lord, if there's some deck like that. So overall, I'd say a loss for Warlock, because Solarium was just that powerful in helping the Warlock. Then let's go to Warrior, the last class, see what that is losing. First of all, Cargo card. Yeah, again, a card that's seen a bit of play, but not recently in Standard, so no big loss. Same with the War Axe. Good old Fiery Win Axe is no longer really winning, so yeah, not a loss here. Now then, the biggest loss here we have are the staples for Control Warrior. It is Brawl and Shield Slam. They're both just rotating. Yeah, Warrior's gonna need some new board clears because we also have the Hostile Invader rotating. So it's gonna need some new cards to make that archetype work again. But yeah, huge loss, Brawl. It's one of those timeless cards that doesn't really go out of favor because it always scales with like the power level. Right? It doesn't care if there's 7/1/1s or 7/8/8s on the board. It's always going to clear most of them. So that has always been a really amazing Control Warrior. So that's a pretty big loss. Then we have the Shield Slam rotating. I think not as big of a loss. It's more of a nice card to have. In Control Warrior, then it's really a necessary card that you really need. A lot of times I've seen even people cut like 1 or 2 of them. So still a loss though for Control Warrior, but not as big as Brawl. And then we got Heavy Plate rotating. Yeah, that hasn't really seen much play. There's just better armor cards. So yeah, not a very big loss there. It is getting back another armor card though, an Ironforge Portal. But yeah, 4 armor, random 4 mana card for 4 mana. Probably not worth running. Sky Raider. Yeah, maybe if there's some aggro pyro deck will worry. I don't see it happening, but maybe then. Detonation Juggernaut. I mean, buff taunt minions. That yeah, feels a little too slow. Probably not enough taunt minions anyway to make that work. Then the Wormhole Challenger. This saw play in the Rush Warrior, I think. A very strong deck in the Barons. So maybe a deck like that will return. But by itself, it doesn't seem too amazing with just a 1 attack. Even though, yeah, it does kill like a 3/4 by itself. But a minion just doing that, not quite worth it without some other synergies with it. Then the Bladed Gauntlet has attack equal to your armor. And yeah, I don't think this has seen a lot of play. Don't think it will see play. It requires you to have armor to kill stuff. And then all it does is maybe kill a big minion. Not really worth it for smaller minions. And has the setup armor, so not great. So yeah, Warrior not gaining a whole lot back in the core set, and it's losing that Brawl and the Shield Slam. So those are pretty big losses for a Control Warrior deck. So yeah, let's see if they get any cards to make up for that. Then let's go to neutrals, the final cards that are rotating. Let's go over the cards that rotate first. Now here we have the Cobalt Geomancer. Definitely seen playing some spell damage deck, because the kind of lack of cheap spell damage minions. So yeah, you just play this one then. So I'm not sad that that's one rotating that usually wasn't played in the most fun decks to face. And then the biggest neutral card rotating is the Brewmaster. Yeah, we've seen that a lot lately with Brewmastering cards like Broxigar or Sylvanas. Those kind of insanely powerful cards. And yeah, it's probably better that this rotates, because it just isn't really fun when you see that same card over and over and over doing that insanely strong stuff. So then, yeah, you just have those cards like Sylvanas then as a one-off, which I think is a lot healthier than seeing it over and over. Nerubinak, didn't see much play. Nomelia. Yeah, actually a pretty big loss, especially with a lot of the strong cards rotating. I thought this card was going to see more play, but nope. It's going away as well, so that neutral board clear is gone. Menagerie Jug saw a lot of play until it got nerfed, so not a big loss after that nerf. Cornelius Rome, never saw play. Slither Spear, I think I've seen a little bit of play. It's a good aggro card, but that's it. But yeah, depends on aggro decks, so aggro decks will lose that one. Volpara Scoundrel. Yeah, not a big loss. Saw play back in the day, back in the day. It's only a few years ago, I think, for this card, but yeah, not a big loss. A Wisp, though, and you can see here already, there's no 0 mana card returning, so this might be just a time with no 0 mana 1/1 in Standard, so maybe it's there to nerf Elise, so it's harder to make Elise work, especially with cards like Ceaseless, Ziliax rotating. It's really hard to get to 10 different mana cost cards, so that might be a reason. Or just because it only saw playing like decks that were like super fast combo decks, and made you want to slow down on those decks. So yeah, that one is gone. Octozari, Well, no longer you can low roll getting Octozar. That is gone now. That's mostly how it saw play, and then yeah, some meme deck I think in Demon Hunter, but that's really it. So the biggest loss is in those RNG losses. So I guess that we can call that a win. And then Ragnaros, yeah, there's another card that only seen play when you random it. And yeah, that will be a loss for those random 8 drops, because it definitely was a good card to random as an 8 cost card. So what is the neutral set getting back? Well, we got the Merge Seller. I don't think it's the play, didn't really see much play before that. Micro Machine, I mean, come on. 2 mana, 2/2, and then maybe 3/2 at the start of your turn. Yeah, that won't see play, right? Come on. Then we have the Witchwood Grizzly, and this card saw a bunch of play back in like 2018 when it came out, and it was quite good against aggro decks, getting a big taunt, but it wasn't very good against decks that have a lot of cards in hand, and nowadays a lot of decks have a lot of cards in hand. So unless you can cheat this out, this seems like a card you don't really want to be hard running. And then we have the Swamp Bleach. Yeah, I mean, what deck is going to be running that? Then we have the Lake Thrasher, a card that only saw play, I think, in Druid, because you could cheat it out. And yeah, besides that, pretty terrible card. So I don't think that'll see play. We got Small Time Buccaneer, though. This definitely has seen play in the Pirate aggro decks. So maybe with that other Pirate card we got back for like Warrior. Pirate Warrior will return, probably not, but this is definitely a solid card for that. Present Valfiend saw a little bit of play when it got launched, but yeah, 2 mana, 3/5, and you have to wait 2 turns for it to work. Not really worth it nowadays. Keymaster, Alabaster, that kind of card. Yeah, it's just a little expensive for what it does. So I don't think that's really going to be worth running unless there's some meme decks. But yeah, that's not really competitively worth it. Then we got Brightwing returning. Yeah, for 2 mana. Probably still not worth it. The random legendary minion. I mean, usually random legendaries are pretty bad, so I don't think this is going to see a whole lot of play. Then Avatar of Hearthstone, which feels a bit weird because it's already in standard, but yeah, it was in the event set, so now it's in the core set. Whatever, it's there. I mean, it's a 9 mana card that plays a bunch of stuff on the board. Usually not really worth it, but I guess if you want to have a late game bomb, you could be playing it. And the last card, it's hidden behind the camera, but you can see it there, is the Mayor Noggenfogger is returning. And yeah, this one is a complete meme card. Also means the sorry emote returns to standard. And yeah, nobody will play this competitively in their deck, I would think, but yeah, if you want a meme, go ahead. There is the card for you. So neutral, yeah, definitely losing more than it's gaining. None of these cards are that special besides maybe like a Small Time Buccaneer for an aggro deck, but it's losing some really strong cards, especially that Brewmaster and the Nomelion, and maybe the Slither Spear, the Geomancer. So yeah, core set definitely getting a bit worse. And also the core set changes for a standard, and yeah, there's some pretty massive changes again. That Shadowstep is a big one. And then yeah, some of the other staples as well are rotating with like Anachronos for the slower decks, right? Like these Mage cards. We've got the Swipe, the Corpse Explosion. I mean, tons of yeah, big changes, really staples that carried those decks. Now, if you want to know what that means for decks at rotation, I got a video for that as well uploaded, although that doesn't have these core set changes yet, so you have to adjust for that, but I think it's still pretty accurate. Now, let me know in the comments what card are you going to be sad to see go away in standard most. Let me know down below. Thank you for watching, and until next time.